Once you find yourself in conflict with a narcissist, it's a virtual guarantee they're going to start playing head games with you. That's why I put together a new course. It's very extensive called Anger Games. I'm going to teach you how to manage anger and conflict with a narcissist. There's a link below that's going to show you how to register, and I hope that you find it to be very insightful. Over the decades, as I would watch individuals and listen to individuals talk about the many conflicts that they've had, a pattern has emerged that I recognize to be true in many of the cases. Not 100% of the cases, but in a very high percentage. And that is, when people are in conflict, more often than not, the more negative person is going to be the one who wins. Now, when I say win, we're thinking in terms of dominance. The more negative person tends to be the one who dominates and therefore who establishes the pace for the relationship. It's not pretty, but it tends to be a very common theme. Now, let's take that same train of thought and take it a little bit further down the spectrum. There are some individuals who are not just argumentative and difficult. They go even further and just become evil. And whenever you're in the presence of the evil individual, it's very common that the evil individual is going to corrupt the goodness in the person that is in their presence. They want to whittle away at your sense of well-being, and evil can far too commonly win. Now, it doesn't have to be that way, but it's a very powerful trend. Now, as I discuss this with you, I want to focus on two primary words that I've already spoken. One is the word evil, and the other is the word corrupt. Let's take a look at what we mean by that. When we say that someone is evil, we're talking about someone who is controlling, but with an extra measure of cruelty. They have kind of if you will, a wickedness about themselves. There's an extra measure of meanness. They've lost their moral compass. And especially when we're talking about someone who is prone toward evil, these are people who will treat others as an object. I hope you hear that. These people don't see you as a regular individual who has needs and a backstory and all sorts of preferences and validity and legitimacy. They just see you as a thing to be manipulated. That's it. You're to be exploited. In other words, they dehumanize you. As far as they're concerned, you've lost any sense of value. You've lost any sense of dignity. You've lost your utility. You're just deserving of foul treatment. That's the way evil people think. As we continue describing what it means to be evil, we're going to say that these people must be in control, and their need for control is off the charts. And we can even say they're addicted to the need of control, for control. They have to have more and more and more to feel satisfied. In their world, you have no right to think independently. I mean, when I say no right, none. These people can be very demeaning. They can be very insulting. They can be strongly egotistical. And when I say that, they have this vain sense of superiority. They can be paranoid. And when I say paranoid, what I mean is they cannot and they will not trust. They can have anger issues, and when the anger comes through, it's abusive. It's more than just stating something they're frustrated about. They want to diminish you greatly as a person. Now, I know that some of you, because I've heard from many of you, can say, unfortunately, I've lived with such a person. And you can attest to the fact that when you're in that person's presence for an extended period of time, you begin losing your sense of well-being. When I say evil can corrupt goodness, let's take a look at what we mean by corrupt. Now, let's keep in mind first, corruptness is what they have on the inside, and so that's the agency that they operate with. They're void of decency, and so they want to bring out the less decent part of you. The evil narcissistic person wants you to fall back upon or respond to them with failed psychological patterns. They love to see you in your base, your lowest self. They succeed, and again, we're talking about in their thing of dominance. They succeed when you become emotionally volatile. They succeed when you wind up insulting them harshly. It's like, look at how awful you are. They succeed when it becomes obvious that you are oozing hatred and contempt. And they can say, look at you. They succeed in their minds when you collapse in futility, when you just want to cry out, I can't stand this anymore. This is terrible. This is awful. And they're thinking, yeah, look at you. You're just a pile of rubble, aren't you? They feel like they've succeeded. They've corrupted you when you become negative and you become cynical, especially if you already have a natural bent towards being a positive person. It's like, no, you're not. This is what you really are. They succeed when they get you to take the blame. Because when you begin responding with all these kinds of things that I'm mentioning here, to them, it justifies, this is why you are indeed, or this proves that you are indeed the low life that I say you are, and this is why it's necessary for me to dominate you. I mean, it's sick. Now, we have a term for this, and I know you've heard me use this term before. It's called trauma bonding. The evil individual must have someone to dominate, and so they will gather you to them in a way that makes them feel like, I now have someone in my possession, I own you, I dominate you, and they want to hold you in that lesser position. And then the bond that you have on your side is you find yourself so stuck, you find yourself so tied to that individual, even in the negativity, that you feel like you can't get out. That's them corrupting you. And then when you do protest to them and say, this is nuts, I don't like this is crazy, they'll just come down on you harder, and eventually you wind up losing your will for self-care. It's insidious. The narcissist evil corrupts goodness. Now, the question is, can you get out of this cycle? Can you get out of this pattern of abuse? And of course, my answer is yes. If I said no, then I have no business being in the helping profession that I've been in for all these decades. Yes, you can. And step number one for you is to be able to recognize this as a pattern. These individuals, these evil people, find their greatness by diminishing people. That's their game. And by the way, if you weren't the one on the scene, they would be playing this same game with someone else. They must have a foil, and so it's necessary for you to see that this is something they're going to perpetuate regardless of who happens to be in front of them. It will come out. When you realize the pattern, then the second thing you can do as you try to break away from this is recognize your role in the pattern. Like I say, they need you to be the receptacle for their chaos and for their negativity. And so you're given the role as the designated loser. And as part of you getting away from this, I'm hoping you can say, I see what it is. I know what role has been assigned to me. I'm not going to keep doing this anymore. And even if you can look back and say, well, in fact, I have felt compromised. I felt like I really have lost my sense of dignity at times, and I hate the way I've behaved in the presence of that person. Even so, you can pull out, because you see, the narcissist isn't going to say that. They don't have enough self-reflection. They don't have enough self-awareness to go there. And the fact that you would say that is actually a good sign. When you are ready and when you're at a place of saying, I can't do this anymore, I want you to just ask yourself some basic questions. And that is, first and foremost, because of this experience, what am I learning about myself? My vulnerabilities and how I got mixed up, and chances are there's some things in your personal history that made you susceptible to something like this. What's going on? And by the way, this is what we talk about in the therapy office. And then you can ask another question. What am I learning about the human condition? What is it that makes a person want to go down the path toward evil in the first place? The narcissism and their selfishness and their need to dominate. What's going on with them? I need to know that so that I can understand what I'm up against. Another question I'm hoping you can ask is, what good is there inside myself? And I'm hoping you can find, well, there's plenty of good. And then another thing is, I'm hoping you think, because there is good inside of me, there are people in my world who would benefit from those characteristics that I bring that are right and appropriate. The evil person certainly didn't. They needed me to not be good. They needed to corrupt me. But is there still something good left in me? I think that I'm hoping the answer is a resounding yes. And then another question, and that is, how can I position myself to have the least exposure to that evil, narcissistic person who treats me like little more than an object? How can I position myself to maximize my exposure to people who can find the things that are right and good in me and can share in my growth efforts? Conflict, sure enough, does bring out the negativity in individuals. Some individuals, though, they're so prone towards evil that they'll generate the conflict just so they can prove how dominant they are. And I'm hoping you can recognize as you examine this, removing myself from an evil presence is essential. You can't allow them to corrupt you and take away the things that are right and best. The best way for me to get out of a competition is to just get away from that person as far as I can, as quickly as I can. Now, I know this has been a difficult subject, and if you've not already hit the subscribe button, I would encourage you to do so. We're going to keep more videos coming towards you. I'm hoping that you can take to heart what we're talking about. That's why I do what I do. I consider it a privilege to allow you, or that you allow me to be in your on your journey with you. So please stay with it. Stay with the effort. You're worth it. Okay. Now, if you have a need for therapy, and I know many times when you're dealing with something like that, that would be a really good thing for you to do. You may know that I've been sponsored for years by the people at BetterHelp.com. It's an online therapy resource. Since the pandemic, we found that online therapy can be quite helpful. And the people there at BetterHelp will have a whole team of licensed professional therapists that you can choose from. As the need is there, please go through the link and get the assistance that you would need. In my retirement from my therapy practice, what I've done is I have been putting together online courses. And each course has at least 25 teaching videos. And with each video, we have documentation and a guided question. One of them is called the anger games. It's about how to get out of the anger traps that they want to throw in front of you. Another one is This Is Me, about establishing boundaries, free to be, ready, set, connect. There are links to those, and you'll get some information on those below the video. On my website, you have access to my webinars, which are 90-minute presentations of a different nature, along with access to my articles, my podcasts, my books, so plenty of resources. Evil exists. And when some narcissists go all the way down that path, they want to diminish you, they want to corrupt you. You can't afford to let that happen. Know what you're dealing with, and then by all means, give yourself priority. We need to recapture and build upon the goodness that's there on the inside of you. Unfortunately, those narcissistic individuals have lost themselves in that regard. I'm hoping that you can be a person that says, I'm committed to dignity, respect, and civility. That's what we stand for here on Team Healthy. And in doing so, you can indeed find your way towards a place of peace.